Welcome to the Angular from Scratch video series, and in this video we'll be discussing using routing and adding a logging component. So specifically, we'll be listing different routes and we'll be adding routing logic using app-routing.module.ts. Additionally, we'll add a logging component. So let's start by showing the profile page. Let's go back to app component HTML and make sure that we have the router outlet tag present. And tap to complete it. Add another line, save all. And next, we'll need to get to the navigation components template, and we'll need to update it to this. What have we just done here? We've used a custom Angular attribute router link, and we have set the root route to home and the profile route to profile. Let's inspect our updated site in the browser. But in order to do that, we first need to save all, and we also need to make sure that the Angular server is running. So we'll see the update right here in the sidebar. But one of the issues that we have here now is that this is just an HTML template. There is no logic behind these routes. In other words, although the links are showing in the website's navigation, we haven't specified how these routes should work whatsoever. The Angular way of specifying routes is to add them to the app routing module, which we'll do next. So let's go to the app-routing.module.ts file, and we'll need to update the routes by adding a new route for each of the links that we want to add. So since app component is the root route, we don't have to specify that, but we do need to specify the path to the profile. So I'm typing path profile, and then I'm typing component, and I'm setting it to profile component. All right. So that pretty much takes care of this. And now our routing should work. So let's see what happens when we click the profile link. And we get the profile works. However, as you can see, we do have a slight wrinkle to iron out. When we click the home link in the navbar, our site expectedly looks like this. And then when we click the profile, we get both components showing. So what does this mean and how do we fix it? It means that we need to update the code in the app component HTML file and change it from what we have right now to basically just this. So that might work, but if we just left it like this, it means that our site visitors would not get to see the greeting "Welcome to title" ever. Before we fix this quote-unquote problem, let's step back outside the Angular world and think about it logically. What's the one thing that we always need to have on our website regardless of what page we're on? Well, besides the obvious navigation, the answer might be a logo or a footer. So let's go with the logo. So we can change the HTML a bit, and instead of having this middle section right here, we'll add the following code. So we're adding an H1 inside a div, and then we'll just add an anchor tag with the router link set to the home path, and inside of here we'll have the title and the H1 closes. So let's save that right now. Wait for it to compile, and we've just made a link to our home page. Of course, we also need to update our styles so that our app looks nicer. This means that we'll have to update several files. So for starters, in app component CSS, we'll add the following: display flex, flex-wrap is wrap, flex-direction is column, and let's save it. And now we can also update the navigation component CSS. So back in here, we'll change some of the things around. So nav's height is now going to be, let's say, 40 pixels. We're no longer floating anything. The width is going to be set to 100. So if you're thinking by now that I'm changing the sidebar into a horizontal navbar, well, that's basically it. So I'm setting it to display block. Background is still tomato. List style type is none. Nav li is pretty much the same, with the addition of display inline block. And finally, the nav li doesn't change at all. So now that we save all of this, we're going to get a bit of a different website, different looking website that has the home, the profile, and the logo. So this slight detour in the development of our app was taken so as to highlight a couple of points. First of all, we need a more robust way of dealing with the styles. So we can mark this as an item on our task list for this project. And we needed a reminder of how to add some code that will show up in all pages of our app. While the first point is something that we can take care of later, the second point leads to an interesting conclusion. To repeat a piece of code in our app module, we can either add it right inside the app components template file, or we can import it as a separate component. It might be an obvious conclusion, but it's worth repeating, as it's one of the cornerstones of how we build apps in Angular. All right, so we've made enough incremental updates to our app to warrant another Git commit. So I'll name this one Improve Navigation. And let's move on now and practice adding another component to our app module. So that will be our login component. Let's list out the steps that we need to take. 1. We'll add a new folder inside src app and call it login. Then we'll add the class template and styles files. Then we'll, as the third step, import the login component to app-module.ts and add it to the declarations array inside the app module's ng module decorator. 4, we'll import the login component to app-routing.module.ts and add it to the routes array. And 5, we'll update the navigation component HTML file with the new router link for the login path. So let's begin with steps 1 and 2, adding a new folder and the class template and styles files. So let's begin by adding that folder. We'll name it login. And then inside of the login folder, we'll add new files. And that's going to be login.component. Let's copy this so we're faster in adding new files. CSS. Then new file login.component HTML. And another one. New file login.component.ts. All right, that's perfect. But since this video is starting to get a bit on the long side, let's actually stop it right here. Well, I guess we can just add a few more things before ending the video. So for the login component, we might just copy whatever we have in navigation component and just update the pieces that needs updating. So let's paste this in. The first line is the same. The second one is app-login. then here login.component.html and login.component.css, export class, login component implements on init, and there you have it. That's our login component file, class file. And now we've got just a p tag, p saying login works, and the CSS file, let's say p, just to style it a bit, font size is 30 pixels. And that's it. Well, I guess we might as well just save the whole thing with the routing and everything, so to keep it in the single video. So let's now go to in the app routing module, add the routes actually. So let's copy this and paste it in right here, and I'm gonna name this login, and the component is login component. Of course, I need to import that, so Control-C, Control-V, and I'm going to type login component, and I'm going to change this to login and login component. So file save all. And also what we need to do now is update the navigation component. So I'm going to add another li right here, and I'm going to say login, and of course reuse this, but just give it a capital L. So now that I've done that, I've got everything saved, and I believe this should work. So let's give it a try. Refresh, login, login works, profile works, and home is right here. So that's it for this video, and I hope you like it. If you do, hit the like, subscribe, and all that business, and I'll see you in the next one.